thegearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network. The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I believe it's a big challenge for our building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
And with that, we welcome you back to Trust the Podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead on the Gear Radio Network. Real quick, we got to dust that bad boy off. This is episode number 128.
Episode 128, peoples, and I'm still dusting my microphone off. That's why I'm sounding like I'm on a telephone right now, because none of my stuff works. When I tell you I'm in summer mode, Ryan, and off-season podcast mode, I am in summer mode and off-season podcast mode. I don't do anything. I'm completely unprepared.
Believe me, John, I'm sitting over here right now as we talk. Actually, well, first off, I should say I'm Ryan Wolf at Wolf BLTD. In case you forgot, my co-host John Cimino at I am JC Money on the Twitter machine, the Elon Musk machine. Now, I mean, so much has changed since the last time we talked here, but yeah, it's
crazy, and I don't know if the dust is impacting you or if it's my headphones, but you sound like you're underwater, my man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, now you don't. But
maybe it was just something weird. I don't know. I was messing with my microphone because as I'm talking here, and I pulled my microphone around and went to go bring it up to my face, and then the microphone just went whang and just kind of fell over. So we're having all sorts of fun, all sorts of production. Woes here today.
Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast here, I have to ask you a hockey related question. And I think you know what I might be asking here.
Yeah.
How you feeling after last night?
Look at, man, watching, because I know where you're going with this question.
Yeah,
Watching Jack Eichel raise the Stanley Cup, I tweeted about it real quick, which I don't tweet much anymore very often. Words are hard. And also real quick too, if I sound like an idiot on this podcast, I'm very sorry. I'm actively working from home during my days, and I don't see anybody, so I don't talk to people. So I haven't really spoken to many people outside of my wife and my 18-month-old in a long time. So sometimes words just don't happen. So please bear with me. But seeing Jack Eichel raise a Stanley Cup, I mean, obviously Buffalo Sabres fans had a different vision when they said, Jack Eichel's going to win the cup and it's going to be great and whatever. Mm-hmm. But he earned it. And that team really earned it. They have, and it was mentioned, I think, by Elliot Friedman, said that was one of the most flawless start to finish runs through the Stanley Cup final that we've ever seen. That
Absolutely.
Team was just so polished, so ready to go. They had all four lines kicking. Defense, goaltending was great. I mean, it was like the next man up type of thing. But it's always difficult. It's like someone said on Twitter, and I wish I had saved it, but it's very true. It's like when you go on Instagram and you're scrolling through and you see an X with somebody else and you see that they're happier and you like it just because you're like, I'm just going to like the photo, but deep down you're kind of jealous. That's how I feel about Jack Eichel. Cause I'm like, you know what could have been? Obviously things are good in Buffalo. They're getting much better and the future is incredibly bright for the Buffalo Sabres, but you always kind of sit back every so often and think to yourself, man, Jack Eichel faced Sam Reinhart, and a bunch of other Sabres faced off against each other, old Sabres faced off against each other. You just go, wow, man, they really had a decent thing and they just really screwed it up. And that is my essay on why Ralph Kruger should be tried for war crimes.
Well, I'll leave it there. But I figured with you being the resident Sabres fan here and me not having a dog in any of that fight, I was genuinely curious on
absolutely
on how you felt about that. But that's, look
at at this point in time, I was as much rooting for the Cup Finals to be over as I was for just hey, look at Vegas looks like they're going to win. Can we just get this over with? Because guess what now happens? We turn our focus to the offseason. So it's going to be a very exciting offseason for the Buffalo Sabres. I actually did, I was going to say meet with Brayton, but we hung out last weekend. So hopefully we'll be able to get some podcasting together there because I know he's been chomping at the bit to get back into the sports world. So I think we can make that happen. And now, John, you having two daughters, it's taken me about this long to kind of get into the swing of things in terms of okay, I can kind of parts and piece out my schedule to make sure that I'm doing everything I need to do, spending time with my wife and daughter, but also making sure that I'm still handling some of my hobbies and things that I enjoy doing, because obviously I love hanging out with you and Mr. Perez. I actually talked to him yesterday on the phone. I called him randomly to ask him a cell phone question, which it was a stupid question, but I figured, it's a good excuse to call Lewis and chat with him for a minute. So either way, looking forward to getting this done and getting back together with you guys. But I do want to say before we get started, as always, if you've forgotten, again, it's been since end of January since we met. The last time we talked, the Buffalo Bills were shaking off another disappointing season without ending a Super Bowl victory. They had a tough loss, which we found out so much drama, which I even forgot to mention in the podcast. I'm going to have to mention just based off my memory here. You can hear us on betterlivethandead.com, gearnetwork.com, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well to stay up to date on the latest podcasts, especially with how sporadic we've been.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back to that game, I would argue that, with the recent drama, the first of the three big things that you'll touch up on, I would argue that was really where, the whole scenario that we sit in and we're staring at today began.
Absolutely. In the first of the three big things, we're going to bring it right to. But first, as always, our three big things brought to you by puckluck.com, your one-stop resource for all of your National Hockey League sports betting action. I do understand the NHL season is over, but we're not going to stop pumping our friends over at puckluck.com. Puckluck provides win percentages and score projections for each and every National Hockey League game to tilt the ice in your favor. Not sure what to bet or just in a rut? Not to worry. Puckluck also provides expert picks to get the puck bouncing your way. Please note, though, puckluck.com, no way affiliated with the National Hockey League, its teams, or the NHLPA. Puckluck.com provides data related to gambling and cannot guarantee the success of any suggested or related wagers. As always, please gamble responsibly. Now, our first of the three big things here, John. As you can see on our rundown, on our sheet here, John, it looks a little different because I was working off of my phone last night, breaking down the fourth wall, laying in bed, wife is asleep, dog is asleep. I'm in the dark watching the Stanley Cup, watching the Golden Knights raise the cup. And I'm like, if we don't talk about this, if we don't even touch on this, we're doing something wrong. So first off, it's trouble in paradise with a question mark. But Stefan Diggs has understandably been upset the last two seasons between how the Bills' seasons have ended, their lack of ability to show any sort of change in those scenarios, but also as the season goes on, his usage is becoming an issue as well, reportedly. Stefan Diggs no-showed the first day of mandatory minicamp. His agent said he was going to be there for the camp. Sean McDermott said, "We are concerned." I mean, honestly, it sounds to me personally like Sean McDermott might be a little clueless here. Just my opinion. Not an expert, just a fan here. Rumors are running rampant, though. We're only going to report the facts. The one fact I do have for you, John, Stefan Diggs ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, no, he can't. He can't, just based on the size of his contract, that extension he signed last season.
Yeah, this will get worked out because right now, again, this will not happen. But if the Bills were to cut Stefan Diggs, they would have a $14 million dead cap hit this year, a $31 million dead cap hit next year. If they were to trade him, it's $13 million this year, $31 million next year. He's not going anywhere. This is going to be resolved. And it all has to do with, again, I know we're just reporting the facts, but there are rumblings of unhappiness because, again, a very important piece to the puzzle left this offseason. Chad Hall, wide receivers coach, now I believe the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. He was very important. Maybe it was not. No, it was Jacksonville. Oh, wow. I totally duffed that one. I believe he interviewed with the Baltimore Ravens, but he is the wide receivers coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I got to dust off that crystal ball, man, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So he moves to Jacksonville. Obviously, things were a bit of the same, but a little different with Ken Dorsey last season. Mm-hmm. It's fair to say we understand why Stefan Diggs isn't going anywhere. Again, I know I'm going to kind of bounce around here, John, but let me just put it this way. The big news of the offseason for me, not that Josh Allen and his girlfriend broke up, which is, again, a big rumor. That was very interesting.
Well, it's not a rumor; it's a fact.
The rumors surrounding it, because there were rumors. Again, I know we only report facts here, but the rumors are kind of hilarious. There were rumors that he got a bartender pregnant who's a nurse at a hospital. She cheated on him. He cheated on her. High school drama stuff.
They're young,
either way,
still young.
Hey, either way, Josh Allen rebounded and is doing pretty well for himself right now. But Leslie Frazier left the Buffalo Bills, a mutual parting of ways. He said he was taking time off. So now Sean McDermott is the defensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills. He said he would be calling defensive plays. So he is putting more pressure on himself coming into the season with that pressure on him of more accountability, but also your star wide receiver is upset. Something is not right. I feel like things are gonna kind of come to a head. I mean, again, winning solves everything,
right?
But if we have another season, I know we're fast forwarding to January 2024 right now. But if we're having the same conversation January 2024, I'm not necessarily saying that Sean McDermott is on the hot seat, but he's a very interesting case study this year, because at this point, if the Bills don't get better, what's got to change?
Well,
absolutely. You've got a top 3 defense. You've got a top 2, top 3 quarterback, top 3 or 4 wide receiver. You've got all the pieces there.
Mm-hmm.
So where at some point it becomes, okay, maybe it's not the players, maybe it's the system.
Oh, well,
and again, we've seen it happen.
That's exactly what it would be. At this point now, when you look over the course, especially the past couple of years, it was always a but situation. Yeah, but 13 seconds, right? Yeah, but whatever circumstance happened last year, the emotions from the Damar Hamlin situation, right? It's always something. But I think this year, and you're beginning to see now, this is going to be the year of the coach and the coaching staff, because they still have their nucleus. And you already covered, we're not going to be getting rid of Diggs. It just costs too much. It would harm this team more to get rid of him from a financial standpoint. Never mind the talent aspect.
I was going to say real quick too, let me mention as well, it would be the most galaxy-brained move I think I've ever seen in my life to move on from Stephon Diggs. These things happen. You have to work with them, work through them, right, and get better because of it.
And that's exactly why my initial point of the, getting down to the coaching. Now, you've gone through the 2 or 3 seasons of disappointing endings. And what about this? What about this? What about this? Now, there's no question about it. With all of the turbulence that's happened, Leslie Frazier gone, you mentioned the wide receiver coach gone and all that. How is Sean McDermott going to lead this team? He is the leader. He is the person that is calling the shots, that is managing that team, and he has to navigate through that. So what is he going to do to ensure that his team plays up to the full capacity that they can play? And in spite of everything that's going on, I think that if this, off-season drama that's happening now starts to rear its ugly head during the season, and in particular, they don't get off to a very hot start. Let's just say, the last couple of seasons, they were off and running. If that's not happening this year, it's going to be very, very clear that McDermott may be in trouble. And I don't necessarily want to say hot seat, but certainly there's going to be a lot of eyes on him because of all of these different dynamic personalities and all of these different isms and everything that's going on. If he can't keep them focused, like, hate to use the guy's name here on a Bills podcast, but Belichick kind of set the standard of putting players in their places, letting them know players play. You're getting paid this amount of money to do your job. You do your job. And he was great with accountability. And you've seen on the opposite end where coaches just kind of shrug their shoulders and are like, well, player has talent and I have to play him. So I have to deal with this. What type of coach is he going to be in this situation? This is going to be the tell-all year, I think, for him. If the Bills don't advance to the Super Bowl, at least, I'm not even saying winning the Super Bowl, but getting there, right?
Yeah,
I
and
think-
again, it's not a situation where like it's Super Bowl or bust, but I absolutely get what you're saying.
Yeah, I think at that point it's going to be less about what Josh Allen did, less about what's going on with Stephon Diggs and his performance, and it's going to be all about how McDermott handled the drama, how McDermott handled the coaching duties, the added responsibilities with Leslie Frazier being gone, and how well he navigated through all of that. If the Bills do well, he's going to look like a genius. If the Bills don't do well, he's going to be the problem.
And we've got a discussion coming later in the podcast regarding the Bills season, the regular season. We obviously have the schedule at this point with it being mid-June. But I think for me, there have been, and again, I know I'm not trying to be revisionist here and kind of go back and point out things that weren't a problem then, but maybe be a problem now looking back. But there have been cracks that have shown in the foundation of Sean McDermott, 13 seconds being the one of them, where they had that mistake. They played off the ball for some god-awful reason, and there was no accountability taken for it. And that reportedly, and it wasn't reported by some schmuck, it was reported by very reputable sources that there were players in that locker room that were incredibly pissed off at Sean McDermott because he simply wouldn't take accountability for it. And those are the kind of things you start to see now with this team where the expectations are not win 10 games, win 12 games, win the AFC East, win a playoff game. The expectations going into the season are, hey, this team, it's not Super Bowl or bust, but this team is talented enough to make the Super Bowl and potentially win the Super Bowl. So that's, I think expectations are incrededly high.
But yeah, the expectations are going to be high, but here's the thing too. The AFC East has now become one of the hardest divisions in football now,
and their schedule is incredibly difficult as well.
Right. So this is going to be a very, very big, I don't want to say make or break year for McDermott, but this is certainly going to be a year where McDermott's going to have a lot of eyes on him. And he navigates through all of these challenges, the Aaron Rodgers being here now with the New York Jets, the potential of D-Hop going to New England. I know New England is interested in him. Miami, it hasn't gone anywhere. They've only gotten better. This is going to be a very, very tell-all year, I feel, for McDermott. And I think where we end up come the end of the regular season will determine what the next few years of Buffalo football is going to look like. We're going to be at the beginning of the end of this era, or we're going to be at the beginning of a new era.
And the one thing that I was going to mention too is that at some point in time, with the pressure moving its way further away from the team and closer to Sean McDermott, we're going to talk about it here in just a minute in our second of the three big things here. But Brandon Beane continues to make very shrewd moves to make this team better. Granted, they have not gone out and upgraded to get a number 2 or a number 2A to pair with Gabe Davis, which that's a discussion point that can probably be had here in just a few weeks when training camp starts. But Brandon Beane has gone out and done his job and made this team better year by year.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I know it is not even comparing apples to oranges. It's like comparing cats to horses. It's completely a different page, different book, different ballpark, different city. But I think the only thing that I can think back to is, and again, Sean McDermott is not as good as Andy Reid is. Let me get that out of the way first off, because I know people might say, well, you're comparing them, so obviously you feel that way. No.
Mm-hmm.
When the Eagles had Andy Reid for that long stretch of time, when they were so successful but could never get over the hump, they had to make a decision to move on from him. Now, granted, they ended up getting Chip Kelly, had to blow it up, had to rebuild from the ground up, and they end up going and winning the Super Bowl. Great.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at some point in time, Brandon Beane may have to have that difficult conversation of saying, hey, is this as good as this team will ever be under Sean McDermott? And I think that's what this season is going to tell us is,
yeah, for sure.
If they
got to let the season play out. We got to remember that right now it's even before the preseason, we're in the off season still. So it's all speculation and everything's running everywhere in every different direction. But certainly by the end of the season, you're absolutely right. This is going to be one of those that there's a very, very strong possibility that those talks will begin by the end of the season if the Bills don't, at minimum, advance to the Super Bowl.
And you have to have that conversation where you just simply say, hey, how can we be better? What do we have to do to be better? And if it's a different set of eyes, maybe it is. But you've got Stephon Diggs upset because of usage. You've got Stephon Diggs upset because the Bills lose. You got the Bills upset because they can't make it past the Chiefs. They can't beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. They can't beat the Bengals in the playoffs. And
it almost reminds me of almost like the New York Yankees of today with Aaron Boone, right? The New York Yankees, and I know you're a Red Sox fan, but allow me to pontificate on this a little bit.
Hey, you know how I feel about that.
Right, but the New York Yankees, from when you look at their roster from top to bottom, you're thinking, these guys should be contending for World Series every year. But then they get to the playoffs and they run into a brick wall called the Houston Astros every year, right? And then it becomes the conversation about, well, is this the best that they're going to be under Aaron Boone, right? I'm almost wondering if we're at a point where McDermott is getting the Booney treatment, so to speak.
I think I get what you're saying, where it's that meme, right, where it's the big muscular dog, and then it's the small little scared dog. That's I feel like that's the Bills' regular season to postseason. Long story short, but
right,
again, at the end of the day, I think that there's a lot more questions than answers going into the season, which feels weird because they're a very good team. And honestly, I want to move over to the second and three big things here so we can keep this ball rolling. But the Bills did a very good job with the draft, I think. They picked up, let me get this popped up here. They picked up tight end Dalton Kincaid, which, again, a lot of people said that may be a luxury pick. But when you think about it now, his abilities, should allow the Buffalo Bills offense to spread defenses out and give Josh Allen a better chance to read defenses, or potentially give them lighter boxes, or just essentially create mismatches that they have not been able to create in the past. I think as training camp and preseason plays out, we will get a better idea of why they were so in love with Dawson Kincaid. But I think it's or Dalton Kincaid. I'm thinking Dawson Knox here. Dalton Kincaid. I think that while it does feel like a luxury pick, Buffalo, they may not deserve the benefit of the doubt, but they have done a very good job finding players that fit their system, and they were hot on him, and I think that that's going to be a very good move for them.
Yeah, again, if this were 10, 15 years ago, then it might be questionable, but I would say, to your point, exactly, yes, Buffalo does deserve the benefit of the doubt with this one. I think it can't, having a good tight end that can actually catch the ball as well as block. I mean, you've seen it over the course of time where, certain teams have done a dual tight end role, or how well they've incorporated their tight end, their receiving tight end. You see it all over the league now. Adding another one, it's only going to help. It's only going to help. It's not going to hurt, especially when the running game has been awful suspect anyways. To be able to give Josh Allen an extra target to throw to that could shape up to be very well, considering the comparisons that he's been made towards. I think it's a good move, and I think they do deserve the benefit of the doubt here. And I see this list that you have, this impressive list that you have here. So I'll shut up and let you keep going here.
Yeah, I'm just going to run through. We'll run through the offense. I think we'll do it this way because we have not talked about this. I'll talk about the offense. We'll get your thoughts. Talk about the defense. We'll get your thoughts. We'll move forward from there because a lot of things have happened. The one big thing I wanted to point out, one name to watch out for in training camp, Osiris Torrance, a guard from Florida. He could be a starter out of camp. The talent absolutely is there. A lot of smart people in love with that pick. So again, keep an eye out for that with training camp rolling up here in the next month or so. On offense, it's all about giving Josh Allen more. They signed wide receiver Deontay Hardy from the New Orleans Saints. He's a 25-year-old return specialist looking to take the next step in his career as a wide receiver. Information here from Ryan Talbot of Syracuse.com. Hardy was the top 7 in kickoff and punt return yardage since entering the league in 2019. He was named an All-Pro and Pro Bowler in his rookie season. Before an injury derailed his 2022 season, Hardy seemed poised to break out in 2021. He finished the year as Pro Football Focus's 4th highest ranked receiver in terms of an overall grade at 87.8 and was 5th in the league in yards per route run, at 2.69. Including the postseason, Hardy has 590 offensive snaps. Of those snaps, 319 have come out wide, while 238 have come in the slot. He's been lined up 15 times in the backfield and once in line. So again, very versatile. Offensively, very versatile on special teams. In his career, Hardy has 64 receptions for 793 yards and 4 touchdowns. A lot of potential there.
Absolutely.
Speaking of potential, wide receiver Trent Sherfield from the Miami Dolphins set a career high last season with 30 receptions, 417 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Another potential, a guy with potential taking a shot here, Marcel Ademan, 19 career NFL games with the Las Vegas Raiders. He finished the 2023 XFL season with the St. Louis Battlehawks, 19 catches for 259 yards. So, John,
incidentally, the XFL was a very fun league last
even though they lost
season.
lost a lot of money, but it was a lot of fun. But offensively, the Buffalo Bills are bringing in bodies at wide receiver. Don't know if this is going to make a huge difference, but it seems like Hardy is going to be at least going into camp the next Isaiah McKenzie. No offense to Isaiah McKenzie, but maybe Isaiah McKenzie with more upside, which doesn't hurt because, again, at this point in time, the Buffalo Bills, much like the James Cook pick, and you're hoping that he develops into this, someone who you can dump the ball to 5 yards from the line and let him get in open space and let him use his shiftiness and his speed to get more yards downfield. So that seems like the idea with these wide receiver additions.
And it's a great idea, and I would almost offer whatever. Now, and I know you said with Deontay Hardy, he's looking to take the next step in his career as a wide receiver, but I would also, take a look at some of those other ones that they brought on as well and see what they got with them and start working to develop them and get them into the number one, receiver mindset, because it's only going to benefit them in their play on the field, especially if there's continued drama with this Diggs situation and what's going on here and how he handles it. I mean, if it gets any worse with Stephon Diggs and he, he's either punished, he's sat, or he holds out or something, right? Worst possible case scenario, no shows, retires midway through the game kind of thing, right? You're going to you have to have the next man up. So it's going to
we can't say we haven't seen that before.
Right, exactly. So you're going to want the next man up, and if these guys are here, you've got Josh Allen throwing to you. To your point, Ryan, earlier, top 3 quarterback in the National Football League. I mean, you're looking at Patrick Mahomes in the AFC, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and then everybody else. And that's it. So you've got one of the top 3, hosses that are going to be throwing you the ball and are going to be helping you make plays. I think whomever the wide receiver coach is now, I do not know the name of the new wide receivers coach now, but they need to really place the focus, particularly on Deontay Hardy here, but as well with the others, and start ramping them up as if they're going to be the number one receiver. Get them in that mindset so that way, if and hopefully not when, but if or when something happens, they're ready to go. That the offense keeps moving fluidly. So I like these pickups.
That is one problem the Buffalo Bills had was valuable depth. They've always had depth, but there's always been a clear drop off. So it's trying to get good players in that position.
Absolutely.
And that's something they're doing with the running back room as well as the line. Running back Damian Harris, 38 games, 2,094 rushing yards on 449 carries with 20 rushing touchdowns for the New England Patriots. He seems to have his best games against the Buffalo Bills. He is signed this offseason, as well as running back Latavius Murray. 135 career games, 6,252 rushing yards on 1,481 carries with 55 rushing touchdowns. He also has 222 career receptions with 1,501 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Now, going into camp, I wonder, John, if his role is already locked in, simply because there were reports that Brandon Beane told Murray's agent if Murray signs with Buffalo, Brandon Beane would not use a late pick on a running back. So that's very interesting to see and to hear. Per FantasyPros.com, Murray performed well when Denver scooped him up during the middle of last season after Javonte Williams went down with a devastating knee injury. In 12 games from week 6 to 18, Murray was the RB24 in half-point scoring, averaging 10.3 points per game, which put him at running back 30. He was PFF's, Pro Football Focus's, 10th highest graded rusher, 82.8. and averaged 15 touches per game. Murray also averaged nearly 70 yards from scrimmage and 3 targets per game. Not bad for an aging veteran in the backfield. As we've seen, running backs don't tend to age gracefully, but he certainly has. So again, the Buffalo Bills backfield, they lose Devin Singletary, but they add some talent with Murray and with Harris, and there will be a fun training camp battle there. Speaking of training camp battles,
not only just talent but experience there as well,
and that's huge too.
Which is huge, all things considering.
Creating competition on the offensive line. We saw the offensive line take a step back last season. Guys like Spencer Brown did not continue to grow as they did in their first season. That's okay, though. They go out and they pick up some guys, some big names. Guard Connor McGovern of the Dallas Cowboys. Guard David Edwards. Offensive lineman Kevin Jarvis. Offensive tackle Brandon Shell. And they re-signed offensive lineman David Quessenberry. So there are going to be, as well as they draft Osiris Torrance. So again, there are some big names on that offensive line, some big bodies on that offensive line, and we are going to find out. And we're going to find out here who's going to be the best option at offensive line, because again, the name of the game: protect Josh Allen, give him time, and allow that running game to develop. But one more thing I want to mention, John, before we move over to the defense, which the defense itself, very impressive offseason, controlling the vibes. The Buffalo Bills did a very good job as well to control the vibes this offseason. They go out, they sign quarterback Kyle Allen, who statistically 23 games, 7-12 record with Carolina, Washington, and Houston. He has 4,734 passing yards with 26 touchdowns and 21 interceptions. The big thing here, very close friends with Josh Allen, keeps that room tight, kind of creates that comfortability factor, but also this is just a personal judgment from listening to Kyle Allen's podcast with Jordan Palmer, who also very close friend of Josh Allen. Kyle Allen is very smart. He's a very smart quarterback, can break down the game very well, seems to understand just how things are supposed to work under center. So I'm thinking that some of that knowledge he should be able to impart to Josh Allen, because again, as we've seen too, over the years, usually it always feels like at least the quarterbacks who don't maybe succeed as much as others tend to be incredibly smart and understand the game. It's just that they don't have the actual physical capabilities or physical ability to be the best, but they can break down the game like a master.
Oh yeah, you absolutely have seen that. I mean, a name that comes to mind really quickly, he's no longer in the league now, but he was rumored to be head coach material, I believe, as recently as the Texans in a few years, was like Josh McCown. Greg McElroy is another one. He's commentating now on TV talking about it. What's his name? Oh my God, he's at ESPN right now, and Orlovsky can break down a defense like nobody's business. Just couldn't do it in game, right? Very coaching mindset. That's a good thing to have. I'd like to remind the Buffalo Bills fans, the Bills Mafia that are listening to this podcast, about a name, Frank Reich. Frank Reich, obviously head coach now of the Indianapolis Colts.
Carolina Panthers.
Not the Colts. I'm sorry, Carolina Panthers. He was the Colts coach. Carolina Panthers, but he was drafted as to be the backup for Jim Kelly, and he was a very, very smart backup. And ultimately, in that Bills run in the late '80s, early to mid '90s, he was very instrumental in kind of helping Kelly read the defenses and holding the clipboard, but having that coaching mentality of being able to help break things down. And I think we've got the potential for that same dynamic here with the Allen twins.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's another situation too where, because they're so close, Kyle Allen should be able to come up to speed relatively quickly. God forbid he needs to step in for Josh Allen. But either way, I am very cool with the vibes being in line on the offensive side of things. Defensively, Brandon Beane pushed all of the chips. I think I said more chips, but I feel like he pushed a lot, maybe all the chips to the center of the table this offseason. They re-signed safety Jordan Poyer after his expected market just simply didn't develop. They re-signed cornerback Cam Lewis, linebacker Tyler Matakevich, linebacker Tyrell Dodson, cornerback Dane Jackson, defensive tackle Jordan Phillips, linebacker AJ Klein, defensive end Shaq Lawson, and safety Dean Marlowe. I know that special teams are their own individual department, but we're going to lump them under defense here. They extended Tyler Bass a 4-year, $21 million extension. They extend linebacker Matt Milano a 2-year, $28.33 million extension, and defensive tackle Ed Oliver a 4-year, $68 million extension here. Now, Oliver's extension may confuse some, John, but Oliver came off a season that was marred by an early high ankle sprain. Per at Next Gen Stats, Oliver has generated an 11.6% pressure rate over the last 3 seasons, 4th highest among defensive tackles during that time frame, with a minimum of 600 pass rushes. So again, when healthy, Oliver is dominant. He doesn't put up big numbers. He doesn't put up sack stats or stuff like that. But when he is not in that middle plugging gaps, oh boy, it's very evident on the Buffalo Bills defensive side of the ball. Now, the Buffalo Bills not only re-signed some big names, they signed some big names defensively. First off, safety Taylor Rapp of the Los Angeles Rams, a potential future safety starting option for Buffalo. Rapp played an important role with the Rams in 57 career games last season from Pro Football Focus. He had a 76.2 grade. Defensive tackle Poona Ford, 76 career games. But John, here's the big deal. 310 pounds. John, he's as tall as I am and weighs 100 pounds more than I do. He's a big boy. He's like a boulder in the middle. Now, here's the thing, though. Last year, he fell off. His Pro Football Focus grade, and again, I know some people roll their eyes every time I say that, but I don't really have any other analytics to compare it to. His career low of a 56.2 grade last season after a 73.0 grade the year before. But get this. Per the Seahawks Wire, this step back for Poona Ford occurred after Seattle admittedly used Ford wrong all season. They switched him from nose tackle to a position more, or a slot more positioned as a 3 technique, which a 310-pound defensive tackle, not sure that's a great idea. But I think if you put Poona Ford and Ed Oliver on the line, holy crap, man, that's a lot of body to move right there.
Yeah, that's a lot of body. That's a lot of man. You know what I mean? And I think when you have somebody that's 310 pounds, keeping him on the line, I don't necessarily want to say stationary, but stationary to kind of protect or go through or try and get the quarterback. Like, I mean, that's kind of what you want to do with him. You don't want to have those 300-pound guys, as Madden would say, boom, biff, bopping over there when they should be bang over here.
That was a very, very good John Madden impression right there. I'm very proud of you.
Hey, thank you very much.
Another interesting name that popped up this offseason, defensive end Shane Ray, a 2015 first-round pick, the Denver Broncos. He fell out of the NFL in 2018, failed to make Baltimore's roster in 2019. He spent 2021 and 2022 with the Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian Football League, where he was injured last season, but a member of the Grey Cup winning Argonauts. Now get this, John, here's a cool stat for you. Shane Ray joined a short list of football players who have won a Grey Cup and a Super Bowl. Now, did you know Bobby Singh, known as 3 Rings Bobby Singh, is the only player to have won a Super Bowl, a Grey Cup, and an XFL championship?
I did not know that. It's crazy because with 23 years of the XFL being like, at least in name form out there, there's only been 2 teams crowned as XFL champions.
That's
and
amazing.
the fact that that Shane Ray can say that he's on the most recent one is in addition to a Grey Cup and a Super Bowl, not too shabby.
Did you by chance catch that Grey Cup game?
I did not.
Do you know who the winning quarterback was for the Toronto Argonauts?
I do not.
It all comes back to Buffalo, baby. Chad Kelly.
Get out of here, really?
Dead ass, my man.
I did not know that. Yeah, no, I tried to, and I know it's hard to now because football is a year-round sport now with all these leagues that are coming up and everything. You've got the NFL, right? NFL in college, and then once that's done, you had the XFL, and then once the XFL was done, you had the USFL, and then in the middle of the USFL season, the CFL goes, and that takes you right. And if you're watching all of those consistently, you're watching football every week, year-round. But I don't pay as much attention to the CFL, especially if the Calgary Stampeders are not really doing well. So
I think a lot of it's ultimately going to be they're trying to fill that gap, and then something will happen. Much like I know it's a controversial topic right now. We could talk about it sometime on the Better Alive Than Dead podcast once we find out where we left it. The PGA and the Live Tour coming together. It's kind of like that. They're just someone's trying to find a way to fill that gap that people clearly want football year round. Enough people do.
I'm trying to figure out though, because when you see the crowds at some of these games, you wonder who those people are. Like for XFL, for example, DC Defenders games, those were great. St. Louis, they loved their team. San Antonio, historically in spring football games, did very well, but they didn't have a great team this year, so they didn't do well at all. And then you look at the USFL, and I don't know what their formula is there, but the only time that they have fans, like a decent amount of fans, is when Birmingham plays at their Birmingham hub site. That's really about it. So I think with all these different football leagues, and I would be, I'm looking more in the XFL's direction with this one. It seems like one of these leagues are hoping to kind of catch a partnership with the NFL to have Big Brother NFL fund them, and kind of sign off on them and be that developmental league that that they need, that they want to be. And I think these are all, CFL aside, these leagues are all competing with each other, hopefully for that honor. And whether or not the NFL actually takes them up on it or just waits for them to die and then takes their ideas and presents them as their own.
Absolutely.
Is one that's something to keep an eye on.
So Shane Ray, 49 career NFL games, 14 sacks. He has experience playing with Von Miller, but here's the thing, John. Showed up to a rookie minicamp on a tryout and balled out enough to get a contract, which is exactly what you want to see from a veteran like Shane Ray. No guarantee he makes the team out of camp, but with the lack of pass rush the Bills have been able to consistently have here, there's a very solid chance he makes the team. I would have to think, at least looking just on paper right now. But another very interesting name that pop up this offseason, cornerback Cameron Dantzler from the originally Minnesota Vikings, moved over to the Washington Commanders. Washington released him. He's referred to as a secret superstar by Pro Football Focus, a 2020 third-round pick by Minnesota, played in 35 games over 3 seasons. Apparently there's talent there to be worked with. Not sure why he was cut and not sure why Washington let him go as well, but clearly Buffalo sees some potential enough to bring him in and take a look. One guy who we know, John, will be on the opening night roster, defensive end Leonard Floyd. 104 career games with the Bears and the Rams, 47.5 career sacks, at least 9 sacks in each of his last 3 seasons. Came to Buffalo to chase rings, he said. Turned down bigger deals to sign with Buffalo. Per ESPN quote, this wasn't a move of, Von might not be playing or might not be ready, Brandon being told Collective Media. This was about adding to our group, adding another player. We like to rush in waves. I think the Leonard Floyd signing may go down as one of the more important signings of the offseason, simply because you've got Greg Rousseau. Can he make another jump next season? AJ Epinesa on the final year of his deal. You've got Von Miller, who knows if he's going to be back or not, when he'll be back, I should say. So again, you've got all sorts of names. Trying to figure out who's going to be that guy. Another couple names, Shaq Lawson, Boogie Basham. So again, big questions, big names coming in to fill some holes. And real quick, prepping for camp before we take a quick commercial break, Stephon Diggs, will he show up upset? We'll find out. We're going to have some healthy Bills. Jordan Poyer's going to be healthy. Micah Hyde will be healthy. Ed Oliver healthy. Von Miller healthy, among some other names. Running back by committee. Which running back will take the lead in the clubhouse for opening day starter? A wealth of riches at defensive end. You've got Rousseau and Miller are starts to lock when healthy. Obviously, maybe Floyd dips in there or they put Floyd somewhere else. But who slots in with Epinesa, Basham, Lawson, Floyd as mentioned? And also, one of the bigger underrated stories of the offseason in training camp is going to be who replaces Tremaine Edmonds, who signed a massive deal with the Chicago Bears over the offseason. Right now, we're not totally sure. But as time goes on, we'll be keeping an eye on that, talking about that more as training camp plays out. But again, just some things to keep an eye on moving into training camp, which starts sometime mid to end of July. So we're getting there. But real quick, John, before we wrap this bad boy up, we're going to take a quick commercial break, pay the bills here. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break with more Trust the Podcast here on the Gear Radio Network. And we are back here on Trust the Podcast. Myself, Ryan Wolf, at Wolf BLTD, John Cimino, at IMJC Money. Looking ahead, some dates to watch. Now, John, training camp dates are not yet announced. We know that they usually go like mid to end of July normally, but they'll be back at St. John Fisher University this year, not St. John Fisher College. They changed that up for some financial purposes, because money talks, my man. You know that, but
it's all about the visuals.
I mean, I'm talking to Mr. Money himself. We all know money talks.
Your current reigning, defending Upstate Pro Wrestling No Limits champion. Yes.
There you go. Like I said, money talks, my man.
I'm gonna run. The last episode, I wasn't that. The last episode, I was I was coming off of IR, waiting for my call back. So for those that cared, in March, I made my return to the ring. First match back, won the No Limits Championship, which I am proudly holding. I'm looking at right now. It's such a beautiful belt, and it's all mine.
That's what I love to hear. That's my favorite kind of story right there. Nice. America loves a comeback story.
Indeed.
I was going to make a joke there, but I'll keep it to myself. 2023, the season. I'm going to run down the schedule here, John. Think about your way too early prediction for the regular season while I talk about this here. Week 1, starting off Monday Night Football, 8:15 p.m. at the New York Jets. I was going to say the Meadowlands, Aaron Rodgers, the New Look Jets, very strong last year. Now they get stronger with Aaron Rodgers under center. Week 2, the Buffalo Bills open up at home versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Week 3, at the Washington Commanders. Week 4, they take on the Miami Dolphins in Buffalo. Week 5, they take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in London at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's a 9:30 a.m. start. Week 6, they host the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football at 8:20 p.m. Week 7, they are on the road at Gillette Stadium taking on the New England Patriots. Week 8, Tampa Bay in Buffalo, Thursday Night Football, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. Week 9, they go to Cincinnati, take on the Bengals, Sunday Night Football at 8:20 p.m. Week 10, they take on the Denver Broncos in Buffalo, Monday Night Football at 8:15 p.m. Week 11, they host the New York Jets. It's a late game at 4:25. Week 12, they're in Philadelphia to take on the Eagles, another late game at 4:25. Week 13, a bye week. Week 14, they take on the Kansas City Chiefs. You guessed it, again, a late game, 4:25 p.m.
Well, but also, again, at Kansas City.
That's the weird way the schedule works out. They play Kansas City next season, not 2023, but 2024, and Kansas City will be in Buffalo. I don't remember why it is that way. I'd have to look it up, but there is a specific reason why it does happen that way.
Right.
Week 15, they host the Dallas Cowboys in Buffalo. It's also a late game, 4:25 p.m. Week 16, they are at the Los Angeles Chargers. It's a Saturday night game at 8 p.m. Week 17 versus New England Patriots. And Week 18, they go to Miami to take on the Dolphins. To be determined time and date. Not sure if it's a Saturday or Sunday or if it's a 1, 4, or 8 p.m. game. I would presume that depends on the playoff picture. But John, not a lot of 1 o'clock games for the Buffalo Bills. A lot of random starts. Going to be fun for us to schedule the podcast out, but hey, that's all right.
Of course. Honestly, I would prefer. Honestly, the later games, anyways, they mean more. I mean, obviously, the 1 o'clock games you can get a lot of things done afterwards or whatever. But the fact that the Buffalo Bills now at this point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a potential of 10, up to 10 like later games. I mean, that's crazy to me. And that, again, to our point about Josh Allen being one of the top 3, when you're in that category, you get those games, you get those prime times, you get those eyes on you.
And you know what? We didn't even mention, I forgot to put it on the rundown. Josh Allen's on the cover of Madden.
Yes, he is. He is.
I did see some people complain that Buffalo's being shoved down your throat. Deal with it. The Buffalo Bills have not been good for a very long time. And they've never had someone on the cover of Madden.
Everybody says that, though. It doesn't matter who it is. When New England was on their rise, everybody was sick of New England. When Golden State Warriors were on their rise, everybody was sick of the Warriors. LeBron James, everybody was sick of LeBron James. Tom Brady, even when he went to Tampa and the Buccaneers were doing it, the Buccaneers are getting shoved down everybody's throat. Everybody just likes to hate. That's all it is. If there's success in any, regardless of who it is or what sport or whatever, you're always going to have the haters. And those guys, for some reason, guys and gals, I don't want to, not include other people or just say it's just, certain people saying it, but hate comes in all sorts of different forms, and they seem to be the loudest because I don't know why. It's loud. I think it's great that Josh Allen came on, that Josh Allen's on the cover. I really like the deluxe edition cover because it has the Bills Mafia, like that, I think to me is what speaks more. The individual, like the regular Madden 24 cover where it's just Josh Allen is one thing, but that deluxe edition that shows Josh Allen amongst the crowd, that to me is the epitome of what a Buffalo Bills like cover should encompass. The entire Bills Mafia there with Josh Allen kind of leading the way. Like that's the cover of covers for me.
All right, so I've got the breakdown for you here. It's all because with the Bills and the Patriots the Bills Chiefs, it is a predetermined rotation. The Bills play all four teams from one other AFC division each year. The division rotates each year. Excuse me. Within that rotation, they also rotate home and away every time they face. So essentially they go back and forth, but then there's also opponent by finish. So if the Bills finish first, they then play they'll play the team who finished first in the remaining division that they aren't scheduled against. The key here is that location of that game stays the same for 2 straight seasons. So what happens was in 2017, the Bills were at the Chiefs, the divisional rotation. 2018, 2019, they didn't play. 2020, it was Chiefs at Bills, divisional rotation. 2020, Bills at Chiefs in the playoffs. Chiefs had the higher seed. 2021, Bills at Chiefs, same place finishers. But again, because it's same place finishers, it stays in the same spot for 2 years. So then the Bills played the Chiefs in the playoffs. 2021, higher seed went to Kansas City. 2022, it's Bills at Chiefs, same place finishers. Now, 2023, Bills at Chiefs, divisional rotation. So now that means in 2024, 2025, 2026, 24-25, if the Chiefs and Bills finish in the same place of the division, it will be Chiefs at Bills, Chiefs at Bills. But if they don't finish in the same place in their respective divisions, which would kind of be surprised, we'll see the Chiefs in Buffalo in 2026.
Okay.
It's a very weird way to do it.
Okay. You know what? I'll leave it to the people that come up with the schedules. They know better than I.
It's very strange, but yes, I agree with you. They know it better than we do. That's why they're professionals, and we're just podcasting
exactly
on a Wednesday night, baby.
Yes,
but John, I've given you enough time to shuffle your feet here. Damn it! Now I need to put the pressure on. Way too early prediction of the regular season. I don't want a full season prediction of what will happen in the playoffs. What do the Buffalo Bills look like when the playoffs are staring them dead in the face?
When the playoffs are staring them in the face, I see them as a wild card team. I don't know that I see them winning. I don't know that I see them winning with the first round bye. I think that's either going to Kansas City or Cincinnati. Probably Cincinnati, to be honest with you. I feel like Cincinnati is they're on that rise, and Joe Burrow is really. He's modern day Joe Cool, man. Like nothing rattles that dude. So I think that the Bills will be, and the reason why I don't think that they'll be in the bye is because of now the division, the AFC East, being much tougher than it was even last year and certainly the year before. So I think the Bills right now are my favorite to win the division. But I don't know how close, I don't know how far away they'll be running away with it. I do think that obviously with the Jets and their addition, they're going to be. I think they'll probably be one of the biggest thorns in Buffalo's side. I don't know that they're win the division type team, but I think that they're going to really cause some pain points for Buffalo. I really think it's going to be a tough one. I think the Bills will edge out and win the division again, but I think it's going to be a 3-way race between Buffalo, Miami, and the Jets. Honestly.
So my thought, just off the cuff, the Buffalo Bills will probably finish 12-5. That would be my guess. Because while the rest of the division got better, the Buffalo Bills also got better. They still have Josh Allen. They still have Stephon Diggs. They still have an incredible defense. Mm-hmm. I certainly think that the disappointing losses will be less, but they'll probably struggle a little more against the AFC East. But then you also have to remember too, the rest of the AFC East plays each other. So this division will cannibalize itself quickly, I think.
I think the biggest difference for me for the Buffalo Bills, honestly, is going to be the coaching this year. That's going to be the tell-all. And to circle back to our earlier points about, how McDermott's going to handle the additional responsibilities, the loss of the wide receiver coach that Diggs liked, Leslie Frazier gone. Like, that's really what's going to be the key here, I think, in all this. I don't think it would have any, if the Buffalo Bills were to win out, it wouldn't be surprising because of the players and the talent level that they have on that team. How they win, though, or what their end season record will be, I think is going to be purely a reflection on Sean McDermott and how he navigates this season with his additional responsibilities. So I think that's going to be the big key. I don't think it would be for lack of talent, because the Bills are chock full of it.
Yeah, and we can talk about this a little later in another podcast, but essentially looking at the AFC East, it's, does Mac Jones make a jump under Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots? Aaron Rodgers was not terrible last year. He definitely statistically had, let's see, passing yards wise, he was the least he's had since full season, the least he's had since 2015 when he was 32. Now he's going to be 40. So again, a 40-year-old quarterback. Right. Tom Brady did it, but then again, I think it's, for me, just in a nutshell, less about Rodgers. He'll be fine. It's more about how the rest of the Jets have developed and enveloped themselves.
Correct. Particularly on offense, because I think they're still very solid on defense, and they're going to be very solid on defense this year. It's going to be the offense with some of their additions. I know Rodgers had a couple of his boys, Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb, come over with him as well. Breece Hall, they're getting back, and he was clearly the spark that as soon as he went down, like the Jets offense changed tremendously.
Yep.
But he'll be back. You've got Garrett Wilson as well, who's developing quite the relationship with Rodgers as well. And I mean, just, not discrediting, anybody else that might have been under center for the Jets last year, but Aaron Rodgers, he may be 40 years old, but he's still incredibly smart as a quarterback. Like, he'll be able to read the defenses, I think, a lot better than Zach Wilson did. As the Sam Darnold before Zach Wilson, and then the who's who of nobodies that took center for the New York Jets at that point in time. So I think they're going to be a lot smarter on offense, but how that will translate ultimately is up in the air. We'll certainly see come week one in the Meadowlands on Monday night.
And definitely too with the Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, can he stay healthy? I mean, he looks like he's put on some weight. He looks more like a linebacker now, which is a little troublesome, a little worrisome, I should say, from my perspective of just, hey, when quarterbacks put on size like that, you worry that, like, he's very explosive. We know that he can run, he can use his legs to make plays, but if he's a little thicker, I guess is the way to put it, will that hamper some of his playmaking abilities? Also, I feel like he's one concussion away from never playing a football game again. Personal opinion. So again, there's a lot of depth in that division. You've got the AFC West. The Chargers look to be retooled again, like they do every single year. Looking at the Chiefs continue to be the lead in the AFC East. The Bengals, I think, are the North's favorite, but obviously the Ravens are coming back again. Lamar Jackson is going to be healthy. That team is going to be one you can never count out. Does Kenny Pickett make another jump or make the jump as the Steelers quarterback? In the AFC South, are the Jaguars for real? Can the Colts make a jump under Shane Steichen? I think that they'll be much better with a Philadelphia type based offense on that team. But how far away are they from being good again? I think the Titans are going to take a step back, so they shouldn't be too much to worry about. But again, there's a lot of stuff we can talk about, which will probably break down in a future episode here to kind of get some more content out there. But
of course,
the Buffalo Bills have their work cut out for them, despite the fact that they're a very talented football team.
Of course, absolutely. But,
now,
That's why they play the game, my man.
You play to win the game. That's why you take the damn field. Well, John, I appreciate you taking the time, my man. It was good to get this thing dusted off, get a podcast back out. I appreciate everybody hanging in, hanging out, waiting for us to come back. We are back. Hopefully, we'll have another podcast here in a few weeks.
Yes, I will work to sound much clearer next time.
That's all good, man. We all have our days. It's all good.
I hate the phone podcast. I really do, and I hate the phone sounding like it. And so I guess I'm saying what I'm saying is that I hate myself right now.
That's fair. That's fair. We all have those days. I hate myself a lot too. So we're right on the same tune there, my man.
All right.
I am Ryan Wolf at Wolf BLTD. John is at I am JC Money. John, we are Trust the Podcast.
You're not.
And as always, thanks for tuning in, and go Bills.
I am the champion without limits.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.